memories. That's the plane change. I was hoping she was going to know. Thank you, Jessie. This is stunning, no matter what she is doing with her voice.
Can it be that it was all so simple then? Or has time...
I just want to say to you, Jessie, if you do ever watch this, because you're absolutely fucking incredible. Kia ora and welcome. My name is Zoe Shibi and I'm your vocal coach for today. We're going to try our best to take a look at Jessie Ware singing The Way We Were. We're going to be looking at what is she up to with her vocal technique and how is she creating these fantastic sounds. I know I only watched this performance and I know it's going to be fantastic. She's incredible. How is she creating these sounds with this wonderful instrument of hers? Let's just get straight to it. Jessie Ware with The Way We Were. Is she not just amazing? So, got thin vocal folds with a little bit of breath coming through there. Wanting to make sure that the mouth is relatively close. We've got something kind of in the way for the sound. And it is less about the breath than it is about the volume. So we're keeping the volume low, and that will help us to not push too much breath. And they go, you just got to practice it. It's the same as with the ooh, but you're just closing your mouth really. This is a challenging song to sing because even someone as famous and as well known as Jessie Ware, like we can have idols, you know, she probably has listened to the Barbra Streisand one like a bajillion times, and it's hard not to copy when we really love a version of a song. So I'm loving that she's not immediately going into that that kind of like direct copy of all of the stresses that Barbra Streisand's using. Let's just watch this again from the beginning because I love the memories. Hard.
Memories like the corners of my mind.
Can you say memory like the corners of my mind? We've really got thin vocal folds there with a bit of breath coming through. There's not enough of the hootiness that I would expect when we're talking about falsetto. Now, the difference between falsetto and thin vocal folds with breath is a thin line. But it is really about the ability to go in and out of those thin vocal folds without hearing such a huge plane change in the vocal folds. We'll go into that a little bit later.
Memories like the corners of my mind. Misty watercolored memories.
Did you hear that? Memories. That's the plane change. I was hoping she was going to know. Thank you, Jessie. The memories going up there. That would have been that falsetto plane change. Yes, I'm not making fun of Jessie Ware in any way, shape, or form. She is an amazing singer. But that is when the vocal folds go from being closed into being raised, where the original is actually rock back and the vocal folds become quite stiff. Not quite. The vocal folds become stiff in that falsetto, and that's what we're hearing.
Of my mind, misty watercolored memories.
Can you hear that? I should stop saying, can you hear that? Of course you're watching this. Misty watercolored memories. She's going in and like surging in and out of closed vocal folds and the breath. And that's what's telling me that it's not in falsetto. This thing like takes time to practice these. And honestly, it wouldn't really matter if she was going into falsetto. It just helps with the warmth of the sound rather than staying blanket in falsetto the whole time.
Misty watercolored memories of the way we were.
A little bit of the way, a little bit of a slack onset there. Now, slack vocal folds can actually help us to close the vocal folds. I love using this as an exercise in vocal lessons to go of the way we were. So creating that slack is actually the slowest movement of the vocal folds. Of the way. It helps to produce even a thicker vocal fold as well as a thinner vocal fold sound without additional pressure, which we don't often need.
Scattered pictures of the smiles we left behind, smiles we gave to one another.
I love the way, every professional singer gets very good at standing in silence and staying in the moment. And I always like to say to my students that those moments between where you're actually singing is where it's your turn to shut up and just stand there and give the audience the ability to focus on the music that's going on with the other musicians. And I just love that. We're staying in the moment, we're staying present, and we're not bringing the audience out of that magic. Let's just go back on that scattered pictures
of the smiles we left behind, smiles we gave to one another, for the way we were. Can it be that it was all so simple then? Has time rewritten every line? If we had the chance to do it all again, tell me, would we?
Oh, goodness me. I love all of these colors. They're just so stunning. We're seeing her move her head back. Now, for a professional singer like Jessie, this is not something that we'd ever write home about. We would just be asking the question, does that feel okay? And in her situation, she would then go to a vocal coach and go like, hey, I'm feeling the need, I'm feeling the strain. If there was any, it has to be said. Or I don't like when I'm doing that. Or a director would say, hey, Jessie, I don't like when you're lifting your head up. But if no one's saying that and she likes it and she likes her performance, then, fuck it. Who are we to say what's right or what's wrong? If I was, however, working with a non-professional singer and they were constantly lift their head up, I would be asking them why they're doing that, because this can sometimes turn into a have to do it and a compensation like mechanism, rather than learning, the optimal techniques, which would be to look forward. We don't want this to become just a habit that we have to do, because maybe we want to sing a line and not look up at the ceiling.
Can it be that it was all so simple then?
I love that. So many different colors. Can it be there was all She's got a thinner vocal fold sound, but the main difference here is there is a shitload of thyroid tilt. So the thyroid is the top part, or the Adam's apple. We all have one. Where the vocal folds actually live, it's the top part of the larynx. And when that tips forward, that actually creates more of a sung sound. It's the main difference between speaking and singing is the thyroid tilt. And when we have that in the sound, it helps us to take the thinner vocal folds further up the range, but it also helps us to thicken up the vocal folds ever so slightly as we're going higher, so that we don't go into a belty or a higher speech quality sound. And that can help us then to take the range even further through the passaggio. We have to tilt if we are going to be taking this vocal quality through the passaggio. Almost sounds like a little bit musical theater in the way that she's doing. I love it.
That it was all so simple then.
And even just that so simple then, going into air and a little bit of tightening at the back of the throat. That's a stylistic decision that you would just, it doesn't have to happen. But a singer would just go like, hey, I really want to like kind of change the sound of this last little bit of the word. And we can do it again by adding a little bit of that tightening here.
Has time rewritten every line? If we had the chance to do it all again, tell me, would we? Could we? Memories may be beautiful, and yet
It's like she kind of like finally relaxed into the fucking song, yeah? But again, maybe it's just her emotional journey, and we're just sort of like seeing this, trying to think about the side of the memory. When you're having that sort of, we actually did a masterclass on this today inside the Vocal Academy, talking about how we can use our voice to portray emotions, and how do we actually know like how to bring in emotion into the singing. And especially when you're thinking about this memory of the corner of my mind. I like to teach singers to think about performing an action. So that could be like you're thinking, reflecting, misty watercolor memories, holding back. And that's going to help you when you're thinking about doing that particular action. It's going to help you to think about the way in which you would say that to someone if you were reflecting. Misty watercolor memories of the way you were. Or it could be crying or sobbing, whichever action you decided to take on. That would be helping us then to color the sound rather than just going like sad, happy, which is really unhelpful when we're talking about our acting. And I feel like in that moment, I just love whatever emotional or character decision that she made in that moment. Just sort of like, it really like brought me in, whereas like I kind of haven't been with her the whole song.
memories may be beautiful, and yet what's still painful to remember, we simply choose to forget. So it's the laughter.
This is so beautiful because I love that we're hearing someone like a different interpretation of how you could sing this, because she's not going into the full belty sound. Oh, I love it.
And yet, what's still painful to remember, we simply choose to forget. So it's the laughter. We will remember.
This is so fantastic. Look, I know Jessie's voice in terms of, I've listened to a lot of her singing, but I don't really listen to singers in terms of, like, I don't think about like, oh, she's a soprano, alto, or whatever. Like, it doesn't interest me. And it's also really unhelpful unless you're going to be singing in a choir or putting it on your CV of going like, yes, I'm a soprano. But that's more to do with the color of your sound than it is about like how high and how low you can sing. What we're hearing here is a slightly darker timbre. Yeah, let's just watch that again, because we need to watch that again in order to kind of like get a good feel for the sound.
So painful to remember. We simply choose to forget.
So we're hearing, we simply choose. So an ooh closed vowel there is going to help to stay in that thicker vocal fold. Choose to forget. I'm trying to decide whether it's the vowel decision that she's made there, or it's the actual vocal quality that's making this a little bit. It's like almost in that mixed kind of part of the voice, because we haven't gone choose to forget and going into that thicker vocal fold that we hear with a lot of interpretations of this song. So I'm really enjoying that she's gone in a completely different, in a different stylistic decision for that sound. But with this get, I feel like it's almost like a drop in the soft palate there to darken the sound, but it could also be the vowel. I haven't quite made up my mind there yet.
We simply choose to forget. So it's the laughter we will remember.
This is a perfect example of when I'm trying to figure out what is actually going on, because this is a perfect example of how when someone wants to get louder, but they're not transitioning into that thicker vocal fold quality or even into more of a bell, which are, we will we're going, we will we've got the thinner vocal fold, lots of thyroid tilt going on, but she's just got that little, that bit of tightening at the back of the throat in order to boost the volume, which is not coming from the vocal fold closure. Now, this is stunning. No matter what she is doing with her voice, I love it. I feel connected to the song. I feel like she's meaning what she's singing. So ultimately, it's about asking, like, you as the artist, like, do you like this? Do you want to sound like this? And are you happy with the performance? And even, we will remember. I don't feel like she's putting that on. She's not like darkening the sound on purpose. Even if she was, it wouldn't really matter. It's like, this sounds like, it feels like it sounds like it's her, and it feels like that just fits her voice, and it's really lovely in her interpretation. So we've got an increase in the vibrato. In the vibrato, then we've got a lowering of the larynx, which is darkening the tone. And that's stylistically like totally appropriate, because she's trying to bring in more emotion. And that's what we can do to bring in more emotion, or like to emotion into the sound.
Whenever we remember.
And that it's almost like I would say that's quite a classical sound there, actually. I feel like the vowel has then made it not so classical. So if we were to go, whenever we and go into a thicker vocal fold quality, maybe take out a little bit of that thyroid tilt in order to help to bring the vocal folds like into a thicker quality, to take some of the vibrato out, I suppose. That would be another option there for her. But again, not saying what anyone should or shouldn't do. It's just, this is really, really lovely in terms, I love the choices that she's making, but it's not the only choice. There's never only one choice.
Whenever we remember.
So, and even with that, so when we're in that thinner vocal fold, there is a maximum volume that we can go to, because if we were to go and we would need to thicken the vocal folds, which would then reduce the amount of the vibrato that's in that particular sound. And again, that's a stylistic decision. We're seeing in a more open mouth shape. She's going slightly away from the microphone to show us that there is an increase in the acoustic volume there. And also the opening of the mouth can also, symbolize that. It also can often mean that a singer is trying to darken that sound just ever so slightly.
How far we remember the way we were, the way we were.
I'm just going to stop it there because it's like 37 seconds or whatever of like instrumental. So the way we were, especially when we're singing quietly, sometimes we just want to go and like throw all of that good vocal technique out the window and just go, it's much easier when I close my mouth. When we're lower in the range, sometimes it doesn't really matter. Unless, for example, I was working with a singer today and she was saying like, Zoe, I'm experiencing quite a lot of strain in my throat, or I want to be able to make the sound less pressed. And then we looked at with her, basically doing the opposite of what I've just said. We worked at releasing this jaw muscle here because that was what was causing, one of the things that was causing quite a lot of jaw tension within her singing. Because we're on the way we were. If you're trying to sing with any type of volume, then we wouldn't want to be closing the mouth there because it's like counterintuitive. And that is, again, a little bit of that thinner vocal fold. Little bit of the thin vocal folds with the air coming through there. We've got we saw the wobble here underneath the chin. Now, again, I'm not poo-pooing in any way, shape or form. It's just singers come to me and they're like, Zoe, why is she doing this? That can often be because when we use the version of vibrato, there's lots of different ways that we can create the perception of vibrato, which is the oscillation of the tone. Sometimes we can create it by actually wobbling the larynx itself, and that's just what we're kind of seeing there is the floor of the, well, it's actually the floor of the mouth really is that bit there. And as we're shaking the larynx, we're also shaking kind of everything in here, including the floor of the mouth. And so that's kind of what we're seeing there with the oscillation. There are a whole bunch of different ways, as I say, that we can create vibrato, whether we want to do true vibrato or not true vibrato, and how you're wanting it to be perceived and how small you're wanting it to be. So if I wasn't even going to go on to a tangent of vibrato because I didn't even think about it with Jessie. There wasn't a huge amount of vibrato in the sound, but it does need to be looked at on like a one-to-one basis. If you are looking for help with your vibrato, I can help you to do that. I do help teachers, I do help singers. I teach singers to create more vibrato in their sounds. So you can apply for singing lessons down in the description below. Wow, Jessie, absolutely incredible. I'm really hyper aware here on YouTube that a lot of the singers that I do analyze and take a look at, they do watch the analyses that are out there about their singing. And I just want to say to you, Jessie, if you do ever watch this, because you're absolutely fucking incredible, I just want to say that I adore your voice and I think that it is so beautiful, and I think that there's so much for all of us to learn from what you're doing with your singing. And I'd love to know if I'm actually right on any of this, because this is obviously from my outside subjective opinion of what is going on within Jessie's voice, and only she can really tell me what is going on. This is what I'm hearing, and if a singer was coming to me with these sounds, the way that I would be interpreting that. And obviously, I'm also open to being wrong. Actually, I'd love to be wrong because I love to learn how to do new things, and I love to be shown different parts about singing and to learn from everybody else. I just want to say with the utmost respect, Jessie, you are the most incredible performer, and I adore everything that you put out there. And I really, really love this performance so much poise and grace in a song that has a lot of, I can imagine this. It's tricky to sing a song like that because, of course, we hear The Way We Were, we think Barbara Streisand, like legend singing the song. And obviously it comes into our mind about comparisons, but we don't need to compare ourselves to anyone. I just think it was absolutely beautiful. So Jessie, wow, absolutely stunning performance. You can see there, though, such a simple song, actually really difficult to sing. I was working with a singer about this, actually, funnily enough. So many of these sorts of lessons come up in singing lessons. We were talking about it last week and talking about how a really simple song is often the hardest to sing because we don't have all of the vocal acrobatics to go along with it. It is really all about the storytelling. It's exactly what Jessie just did in that song. So go away and practice your songs. Not Jessie, yeah, she's done her practice, but everyone else, go away and practice the songs. And if you want, choose this one because it is really, really beautiful from going all the way through the vocal range and especially through that passaggio zone for most female singers. So I'm going to put some more Barbara Streisand up here because I know we've had a look at her on the channel, had the grace to look at her. And if you want to learn more about how to improve your vocal technique, I have a free singing lesson for you down in the description below. Just remember, anyone can learn to sing. It's a bunch of muscles. It's about learning the coordination. If anything has resonated with you, then I would love to see you inside my online singing school. So have an awesome rest today. Happy singing. Ka kite anō.